on to Darren Waller. He is seeking a new deal. Obviously, he has 2 years remaining on his contract, so the Raiders don't have to hit the panic button, I should say, because he has 2 years left on his contract. However, he is at the 17th highest paid tight end right now in terms of APY and guaranteed money. And based on the numbers that I ran, he's first in catches, first in receiving yards, and third in touchdowns outside of George Kittle and Travis Kelce. What is the status with Darren Waller? Because again, he's turning 30. That's the ripe old age where you're getting old. And then also you have Foster Moreau there, who I really, really like, number 87. So with that kind of dynamic in place, what is the chances that Darren Waller is actually can get extended in 2022 or 2023 or somewhere in the near future?
My best guess is sometime next year.
Okay.
It could happen this year too. I'm not saying that won't happen. But I think that that it was a calculated risk what Darren Waller's agents took in. I want to say it was 2019. I think it was somewhere along the line in 2019 where it was obvious. Okay, this dude can play. But because if you remember, he was a nobody. I mean, he was nobody knew who Darren Waller was.
I didn't know who he was. I swear. I didn't know who this kid at Georgia Tech was. I had no idea.
Yeah. And, give Greg Olson, the offensive coordinator, a lot of credit. For Raider fans that don't know the story, the Raiders were playing the Baltimore Ravens. I want to say it was a preseason or somewhere along there. They were in Baltimore, and Greg, which is shrewd coaching, he liked to go out on the field really early to watch some of the young guys, whether it was from his team or the other team, to kind of size up some players, because some of those guys, especially those early out guys, could be available at some point, So he just remembers seeing this dude, Darren Waller, who he didn't even know the name or anything like that, but he's like, who the heck is this guy? Like you look at Darren Waller, he jumps out at you physically and athletically and everything like that. So he saw Darren Waller out on the field in early outs and made a mental note of it. And on the plane ride back, you did a little bit of research, I think, before he got on the plane. But on the plane ride back, he's telling John Gruden, man, I'm just telling you right now, there's this dude over there in Baltimore. We don't have a guy like this. Like he's like 6'7", blah, blah, blah. He can run like the wind. I don't even know who he is, to be honest with you. But, hey, if there's ever any chance just to get him in our building, man, I think it would be worth it. So long story short, they went out and signed him off the Ravens practice squad, which is where he was at the time. And I think you may know this better than I do. I always forget. I think he might have played a little bit in 2018, because that was when it was 2018. I think
he did play. I think I looked it up, and I think he did play, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. As I'm telling the story, do we have a second to tell?
No, we have all time. Dude, the floor is yours, man.
All right. So that story always reminded me of this story. Okay. So years ago, I went up, Larry Brown was coaching the New York Knicks, right? And so I wanted to do a story on Larry Brown, right? This is when I was working for the LA Daily News. The Knicks were coming in to play the Lakers. So I wanted to do a big feature story on Larry Brown ahead of them playing the Lakers in LA. So I went up to the Bay Area. They were on a Bay Area swing to go talk to him, and get some time and talk to him and blah, blah, blah. So as part of that whole trip, the Knicks are playing the Sacramento Kings and up in Arco Arena. And so I get there, I get to the arena, and for fans that don't know, even before sometimes fans are even allowed in the game, a lot of your 13th, 14th player will be out on the court working out with the assistant coaches just to get their little run. That's their game of the day, because they're generally not going to be playing during the game. Right. So they're at the end of the bench, but that doesn't mean they don't have a future or anything like that. That's their game. So anyway, I don't remember the last time I ever saw this, but I get over there and it's during that period, and lo and behold, there's Larry Brown, and he's not even sitting over on where the Knicks were working at. He was sitting over where the Sacramento Kings were working at. So they're young players. And so I was like, wow, so I went over there, I sat next to him, like, why are you even here? I never see a head coach out here at this point. He goes, look, I like to look at the other team's young players. because you never know when some of those guys might be available at some point. I want to know, are they working? Are they listening to those assistant coaches over there? Are they doing what they need to be doing? You know, and he goes, because you never know. It could be that year. It could be a couple years down the road. And I've made a mental note already of, if that kid from the, that forward that I saw from the Sacramento Kings that night in Sacramento ever becomes available, wouldn't mind, having him. So he was doing like, you know what I'm saying? Like the head coach of the Knicks, who doesn't need to be out there at that point in time, is kind of trying to get some homework done. And then he taps me on my leg. He's like, see our guy over here? And he pointed me to the other end of the court. And there was this dude working out with Patrick Ewing, who was an assistant coach with the Knicks at the time. And he goes, see that guy over there? He goes, he's not going to play a lick tonight. He goes, but keep an eye on this guy. In a year or two, he's going to be ready to go. It was David Lee. People forget that David Lee actually started his career with the Knicks. I think that's who drafted him. But anyway, he didn't really play that much that first year, I don't think. And at least that's what Larry Brown said. But I'll never forget when David Lee, he wasn't the greatest player, but he was a pretty decent player for the Warriors.
He's decent. Yeah.
Yeah. He was. I mean, I think he made a lot of money too, and was during those early Steph years. And I remember, that's that dude that Larry Brown was talking about. It was like 4 hours before the game even started. So things like that, and it always reminded me of Greg Olson out on the field way early. You're in Baltimore watching a bunch of guys that nobody even knew their names, and just recognizing, oh my gosh, so who's this guy over here? And that's how ultimately Darren Waller became a Raider. But as we were talking about his contract, sorry to divert.
No, this is great story. This conversation is great because you're bringing up stories that people want to hear. I mean, you would never get this anywhere else. So. Yeah,
thank you. When you think about when Darren agreed to the contract that he agreed to, he was just putting together some, it was probably a half of a season, maybe a little more than half of a season in 2019, where all of a sudden, wow, this dude can play. Yeah. And at that point in his career, because remember, he did kind of waste some early parts of his career with what was going on, and where he was. Thank God he's through all of that, and he's stronger for it. And I think everybody, whether you're a sports fan or not, roots for somebody to just stay on this path, right? On the path that he's at. But the Raiders offered some security, and I'm sure he was looking for some security at that time, coming off, where he was coming from. So at that time, it made a lot of sense to sign that contract. Well, now looking back, maybe it didn't make the most sense. So now he is, like you said, very underpaid as it relates to his colleagues and his peers, really. And so I know that the Raiders want him, and they understand his importance to this operation, especially now bringing Devontae Adams in, and they understand that the pay doesn't necessarily warrant the production. It's below what the production says, and they're going to have to do something to rectify that. But I would think just kind of my sort of what I'm hearing, I guess I would think that it would be more sometime next year, maybe this time next year.